He lost his life to suicide.
What could have saved him?
Love, acceptance. Okay, so first, thank you for being here, because for me, as I told Avi, seeing a group of parents that are ready and willing to do the hard work for their children, it's healing for me. It means so much to me. So thank you all. Okay, so I'm doing this unbelievably. It's just my brother. He lost his life to suicide. It's almost 7 years ago. That triangulation between the parents and the children, I was kind of the parent figure, a surrogate parent. And I always tried, like, the guilt and the blame, like what I felt, kind of trying to make them feel better. Just hard, seeing them just struggling. Like, I can remember my brother, he was maybe a 7, 8, 9-year-old child. Whatever was going on in his life, just the emotional anguish, the pain, he used to run. I remember he used to wake up at night and run around the dining room table, yelling and screaming like a wounded animal. And the environment around him just kind of, we had to make him into a mensch. That was the therapist said. He has to be a mensch. Just made him suffer even more. The environment wasn't supportive for him. And it made him struggle even more. You know, when I look at my students, when I see students like kind of acting up, acting out, it's always what's wrong, what's going on for her. It's not what's wrong with her. And I was always right so far. There was always something going on in their life, either a father away for 2 weeks, a baby, a child sick. There was always something. That's the way I look at 15, 16-year-olds. I have my own 16-year-old already. It's what's going on in their life. Going back to his Levaya, I remember by his Levaya, I lived in Korea, and I remember telling him, I'm going to take my healing seriously. I'm going to be much more invested. And that's when I started, going back like 7 years ago, like really going deep into it. So most of these things, the children struggling, most of them, it's HSPs or a lot of trauma. Say about sexual abuse, what that creates. I know if I may say, probably most of the kids, I know if all of most, had some kind of experience with molestation or rape. I'm a survivor as well. I can just say on a soul level, on a nafshizika level, the chaos around it just tears the soul apart into pieces. I recently had a very intense therapy done on that, like for 6 to 8 hours, and I saw the sexual abuse on a nefesh level, on a soul level. It's the tima and the negativity and I don't know how a kid can live with it. I used to just tune it out. And I had my coping protectors working for me, but I was like, yeah, well, how would any kid just stay normal? So I thought the tima level of it, so a child like having to be in their body with this negativity, with this intense negativity, it cuts away every fiber of their spirituality, just cuts it into pieces. There's nothing left. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done. If parents can hurt a child, there's so much more power to a parent helping their child heal, 10 times more. So going back with the impact of my brother taking his own life, even with the next generation, my daughter was an 8-year-old, and she developed a full-blown panic attack. Anxiety. I took her to therapy. She's fine after a few months, but just I saw the next generation that created, just was like, okay, he's gone, it's over. The hardships, the struggle, it's over. It was the next generation. Just the impact of that. And for me, I was an adult already. I was a 30-year-old, I was an adult. It took me years to be able to let go of that guilt, that blame that I felt for years. Like, maybe that there's still something that I could have done to make him, to make his life a little bit better. Maybe. Because, as I said, I was also a surrogate parent. I implemented all those, I remember paying $1,000 for big bal mechanech, huge bal mechanech. You probably would have done differently today's days. It's back 15 years ago. And he said, yeah, you have to teach him to be a mensch. He has to make his bed. No such a thing as not making a bed. And if not, he's going to sleep without a pillow. Every time he would misbehave, calling the ARTSCROLL member to hold him down for hours to break him. That was with all the guidance. Just made him more, just made him even more crazy. Just can't imagine that pain that he went through, the anguish. Just he couldn't take it anymore. Like from the outside, it looked like he's doing much better, but from the inside, he was struggling much, much more because he had to. Everybody, the environment around him, just tried to make him into a mensch, with the consequences and it's just not helping him. Pain, the unorganized chaos that's going on inside of a lot of these children. Some of my two siblings, the constant chaos, the noise, the stimulation. They're both, I would say, HSPs, highly sensitive children. Both of my siblings, highly sensitive. It's just hard for them to live in an environment, in their body, in this world. Just hard for them. There's just hard for them to be present, to be calm. Nothing could calm them. Like just calm. The environment has to be super calm for them in order for them to be grounded of their body and to be able to be in their body. I remember just seeing my sister just also like running around, a lot of running, just trying to tune it all out. And I say, if I may say, like there's one level of like kids acting out and being angry and rebelling, I say that's still a healthy sign of life. They're still showing you what's in there. I've seen children like shut down. I met yesterday a few children like totally shut down. No spark of life. But I know they're suffering inside, the emotional anguish they're going through. But there's just no spark. They're like, you look at them, they're like dead, walking dead. Just sad, and then they grow into adulthood, if they get to adulthood, and then like the divorce rate and the 23-year-old, there's two little kids in psych wards, but they're in the system, they're still conforming, and they're still in the system, but for me, that's much more scary, seeing that loss of like this spark, it's lost. Like they don't think anybody cares anymore. Like anybody cares for them. If somebody would care, they probably would have been able to act out, to rebel. So your parents are, I wouldn't say lucky, but your kids are still kind of showing you what their pain is inside. So the crazy outside is probably just a minute amount what's going on inside. I remember I had one of my children, she had a full-blown anaphylaxis, allergic reaction, covered in hives. And I remember the allergist told me, I was in the hospital with an EpiPen, the allergist told me, oh, what you see on the skin, the surface level, that's just a tiny bit what's got, her system is totally hijacked. It's going haywire. Like it hit me then, like, yeah, the emotional pain can just like hijack a system. So when a child, like an adult even, just whatever they act out from the outside, it's probably just trying to make sense of the inside, their pain, they're just the chaos, the negativity, all those negative forces pulling them in different directions. Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? You said it will be okay for questions.
Yeah,
right?
I'm more comfortable with questions. Just being in tune with them and just showing their support. I'm here. It's all I can do. We cannot like fix their journey, whatever their pain. We can't fix their pain, whatever they're going through. It's God-given. Hashem gave it to them, for them to work through, and we can just be there. Just support them, care for them, show that we care. That's all. Was very calm, happens to be the last kufa. He was, quote-unquote, doing very well. Outside, not inside. But also, he was going through a lot of consequences at that point, because he was doing better, so he was stronger. So you could have knocked more sense into him.
That's what they were taught.
That's what all the people around him, the Rabbeim, the I don't know, whoever was in charge.
Therapists.
Of course, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists. He was sleeping like a thing for weeks without a blanket and without a pillow, because he was kind of in action. He was stubborn. He's not going to make his room. So after his consequence, I think, constantly consequences, he just lost it.
What could have saved him?
Love, acceptance. He was never accepted in his environment. By his lavaya, I said, I'm done. I'm done with this dysfunction. I'm not past. I promised him I'm really gonna invest 7 years ago. I was already 30. I was almost 30 when he passed away. I was 30, and the impact. I remember one of the nights of the shiva. I remember like I wasn't able to sleep, of course not, but just being in bed. It's fine. Just being in bed and I felt literally the pain, the intense pain. Either my heart is going to go, or I'm just going to lose it, or my brain is going to go. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't have a Xanax with me. I was nursing the baby. I was like, no Xanax, no nothing. And I was there for hours. I'm like, my heart is going to go, or I'm having a mental breakdown. That's what it feels. I made it through. The shiva was grueling. People came with all kind of comments. Oh, how do you do it? Like, you really want ideas? Stupid. It's very uncomfortable. And just very, very, very uncomfortable. You're having to sit shiva for such a thing. Nobody should ever know what it means. But he could have been saved. He totally could have been saved. If he would have had the environment support him more, accept him, not be so sterile. It's very sterile, very strict, very... Yeah. The house, the home. They have a home where to come home. That's all that matters. After a hard day, they just have a home.
Question here, texted in. What do you say about the people who give advice that the kids, they shouldn't be spoiled, and why should they ever become better if they have support and acceptance from their parents? You face the camera.
What do you mean, spoiled of what? Spoiled of acceptance?
Spoiled from buying them stuff and giving them money and showing.
When he'll be healthy.
When
he'll be healthy, we'll take care of it. I never saw a spoiled child, like a child being ruined from being too spoiled. From having too much love. Overindulgence.
Why should the kid ever change his ways if the parents are giving him money?
Because if a child is healthy, they will do. If they can, they will. It's only their own healthiness that they need.
And they'll get healthier quicker if the parents give them money and support them and show them that what you're doing seems like okay. If
they feel loved and they feel accepted, that's all they need. They're in intense pain. I remember when I went through, I had a deep depression, suicidality. I was going through my times. And I remember I was wishing to have stage 4 cancer. I had then 2 aunts that passed away from cancer. I wish I would have cancer. I would come home. I wouldn't have to kind of be there. I would be able to fall apart. I would be able to fall apart. I wasn't allowed to fall apart. I had to still be there for my kids. Have my house up and running. There was no place for me to fall apart. I remember I was just envious of my aunts. It was just like to that amount. My depression just took over, and I had to still wake up in the morning. There was no choice. 7 o'clock. Kids have to be outside to the bus. They have to make it to school. They have to be laundry done, supper cooked, and if I had a work day, I had to show up and work. There was no excuse. And also, it feels like emotional struggles It feels crazy because there is no thermometer to measure that over 106 temperature, and then you're normal, you're fine. Why you're not okay? But yet it's so crazy. It feels even more crazier than physically being sick. There's no proof. There's nothing to show. Yeah. He'll heal. He has to go through his journey. He'll get there. If he has the support, the love and support, he'll get there. We cannot do the healing for them. It's their journey. They will heal. How long? As more support, more love, that's quicker they'll heal.
Yeah, you're talking about things that when you grew up, and even now, we don't talk about. Because they don't exist. How could you talk about things that never happened? And feelings that don't exist? And feelings that people who don't understand this say just grow up and you're doing it to yourself. Get over it, right? So I think you're amazing. So we here in this room are dealing with kids who are almost all of them are completely dysfunctional, so we know the damage that could be done. And really, everybody's tefillah is to have a child at your age who's what you are. And we wish that you shouldn't have any pain, and you should be able to enjoy your life that you built for yourself. But if everybody can sign a paper, and in 20 years from now, you're going to have this as your child, who's going to be a mother and a wife and functioning and a teacher and able to share and help people and be a role model. Well, growing and dealing. we first would be very happy with alive. Okay? And then on top of that, we're very, very happy with functioning, and then we're very happy with married. And then we'll be very happy with, a stable, everything. So you're everyone's dream. You're the miracle that everybody wants. Maybe you feel that you have struggles and things you want to get to, but they just want their kid to be you. And then we'll take it from there. Kids say, I wish I had cancer. Nobody would blame me. Nobody would judge me. Nobody would think I could do better. Nobody would have expectations of me. Everybody would come to see what they can do for me, and they would spoil me, and they wouldn't worry about me being spoiled, and they would care about me. But if you have inside emotional cancer, I call this EC, emotional cancer, that's equally as deadly as we see, Rahman al-Atzlan. And that person, not only they're dealing with that they want to die every day, dealing with suicidal ideation, or numbing themselves, or just they see the destruction of their future. On top of that, everyone's blaming them. And then, not in TP, but the rest of the world, they're doing it to themselves. I got a text today. It's so interesting how you get texts, right? How I share texts that I get, and this father is upset at me. I don't know who he is. And he's saying, like, how could you say, again, we have one of those, they're doing the wrong thing, they get upset at us doing the right thing. We don't have the feelings he has. And he's texting me, you say to show love, none of that can help my child. I have no rahmanas on this kid. He dug his own grave. He should get what he deserves. And he explained to me the situation, and your situations are worse than what he's going through. But that's the way he looks at it. I gave him so much choices to straighten out, to behave. He's spitting on our face. They're blaming everything. He has regular bechira. And it's not true. It's not true. Because if he could, he would. And when he can, he will. And Nebuch, this father, is like pushing him into the grave. Pushing him into the grave with and even if it would be true that he's making a mistake and he has full bechira and he's ruining his life at 16 or 17, so therefore you don't give him a chance. So one day when he's 25, he'll wake up. Let's say he's totally healthy and he's making bad decisions. So you amputate them? Even if it's wrong. So a stupid kid makes a bad mistake at 15. So you amputate them so they can never be better at 30? Instead of doing what we do, so that way when they can make better decisions. Like, what's wrong with just following what the Baal Shem Tov said, and the Chazon Ish, and Reb Gershon Edelstein Shlita, and Reb Steinman Zatzal, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zchus Yogin Aleinu, and Lubavitcher Rebbe, and Reb Pam Zatzal, everybody. I haven't found anybody else that says richuk, anger. But the professional said the professional is trained by a goyim. Even the frum professionals, they have a very big problem. But they're stopping. They're changing all the time. But the training is from the college, which is research done on goyim, which I don't believe works on goyim, but that's not my field. We had now over here just the family. And it's a very difficult situation. She does not have the support of her brother, who she needs very much financially and emotionally support. And because he says, I don't believe in all this Avi guy, this new stuff. I don't believe in it. She says, yeah, but look at the success rate. Do your research. He watches Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil would say, consequences, boundaries, boot camp. Listen, you have to be home, we lock the door. You bang on the door, you're disturbing us, we call the police, like a stranger. You act normal or else, and where does that end? I wish Dr. Phil would come here and see the success. I'll tell you something interesting. Rabbi Dr. Abraham J. Twersky, Zatzal, he spent 60 years mainstream, AA and NA, and did not do what we do. And he sent me somebody. Somebody called me up, we are dealing with our child, and this is our issue, and Rabbi Twersky told us to call you. I called him right away. He said, it's a very cute conversation. He was a very cute person, besides being a genius, which we all know, and a tzaddik, whatever. Yeah, I know. I'm like, how could you refer someone to me? I do everything the opposite of what you know. So he said, I know, but it works. I never argue with success. I said, can I come meet you? Sure. I went down a few days later. I went to his place in Deal. Where is it? New Jersey? Some place in Jersey. And he was so nice. For 45 minutes, I explained to him what I do, how I do. He was quiet. After 45 minutes, he goes, "What do you want from me?" I said, "I want you to come speak to the parents." Okay. Came down here. We had about 100 parents packed in the room. They started giving their testimonies. And the first one talked about, we had a son who was an alcoholic. And they're still, many of you know them, real alcoholic. And they did everything for years, and they didn't give him money, and they took away the alcohol. And he would be drunk and drunk and drunk. Do you know in TP, if you look at down the road, we don't have one drunk. Look 2-3 years later, we don't have one homeless person. We don't have one drunk going through the garbages. Not one. Bli on her. And we came to Avi and we bought him an iPhone, an iPad, and we embraced him and we apologized to him and we did this whole thing on a Wednesday they started, and on Friday at the table we took a huge bottle of his favorite, like vodka or something. It was like a huge one, and we put it at the Shabbos table. He said, "What is this? Come, have a l'chaim." The kid is sober. The kid is sober. He got so sober that he didn't drink on Purim. Immediately, within a few months. And now it's years later, sober. And he listened to one after another of the testimony of the TP parents. And he was just taking it all in and listening and listening. He must have been 90, in his 90s. And I walked him out and he tells me, "I got to figure out why this works." But that's a gadol. I hope when I'm 90, first of all, I hope I'll be 90. Amen. And I hope that I'll be open-minded enough that if somebody else comes up with a better method, that I'll be able to say, "Hey." So here he is, he said, and what was his famous quote? Is the same thing he told me on the phone is what he said, "Barabim over here, I never argue with success." And he still admitted, I don't know why it works. Because when someone's drinking, take away their money so they can't buy alcohol. That's what they believe. Don't enable them. And here we are master enabling, and we have hundreds and hundreds of kids who are getting out of all this stuff even without the rehabs. And sometimes if they need it, at least they should be from the Yechidei Skula, from the small percentage that are successful in rehab. And even without understanding it, he was able to be makir and understand that this works, and he applauded us. That's a gadol. That's a gadol. So it is changing over time. And you parents are the ambassadors. You're ambassadors. You have to make sure that we're successful, because there's a lot of people not doing this, and I don't mind if they don't do this. I never tell anybody what to do. I never tell anybody come here, but I just don't want people to lose their kids. And in my experience, one real hug from mom and dad saying, "I accept you. The war is over. I'm not looking down at you. Havidon es kol hakip lekavschus. Havidon es kol adam lekavschus." You must, even if you don't know the trauma, remember we went through the symptoms of trauma. So many parents angry and screaming at the kids, but if they just Google symptoms of childhood trauma, and they'll see 50 symptoms, and they'll say, "Wow, my kid has 20 of them." Right? It's like, obviously that is the number one thing that's killing our kids is childhood trauma, and usually sexual abuse, unfortunately. And no, they're not going to tell you, and they're going to deny it if you ask them, and there's many reasons why. And in these days, it's very easy. Google why. TED Talks. You could share one?
Yeah, I used to deny this, but I had the memory, 100% memory, but I denied it until I was probably in my 20s.
So those are the symptoms of trauma. You said it so good. This is what we have. Deep shame, deep guilt, feeling that I'm dirty. I wanted it. I was okay with it. It's very hard to know when it became abuse, because the grooming process, and it's very easy to manipulate children. So this is what we're up against. Hashem should help us all see complete refuahs and yeshuas for all of our children.